Hello, and welcome back to Invitation to Puzzles, the series where we introduce you to the wide world of puzzles that exist. And today, we have a full deck and missing a few cards arrow puzzle. So we've done an arrow puzzle once on this channel before. There'll be a link down in the description below to that. But arrow puzzles have a lot of interesting variety to them, so I wanted to try and do another one. And I've been greatly enjoying the full deck and missing a few cards puzzles lately, so let's give this a try. So the rules of an arrow puzzle, if you have not seen them before, are that whatever digit you put in the circle, you have to make the remaining digits sum to that. So for example, if I were to make this a 1, a 5, and a 3, I would need to make that a 9 because 1 plus 5 plus 3 is 9. That is how this works. Should be noted as a none rule, I suppose. It's perfectly okay if I do that. I can repeat the 3. There's some Sudoku constraints that don't let you repeat digits. Arrows are not one of those constraints, so you're free to repeat digits however you like. But that's the rules. So the rules are simple enough. That plus normal Sudoku rules. There's a link down below if you want to give it a try. And I'll go ahead and work on it. And so if you get stuck, feel free to come back. Or if you just want to watch me go through it, that's totally fine too. And I know where I'm going to start, so if you want to pause the video before I tell you where to start, you have 3, 2, 1, and this digit is where to start. And the reason why that digit is where to start is because basically anytime you have a digit in a circle, it kind of wants to be big. And Sudoku digits don't actually get that big. They can only get as big as 9. Now, normally, you'd look at these 3 digits, and you'd say, what's the smallest they could be? And you'd say, they could be 1, 2, 3, and those digits sum to 6. So this digit's at least a 6. It's a 6, 7, 8, or a 9. Okay. Now, one of those things you could note, it's not a 6 because there's a 6 here. Okay, that's not the exciting thing. The exciting thing is actually this given 1 tells me that none of these are a 1. So in fact, instead of the minimum being 1, 2, 3, the minimum is actually 2, 3, 4, and that already adds to 9, which happens to be the maximum you can ever make your arrow sum to. Unless you're doing the like pill arrows where you get to write out something like this arrow sums to 42, I don't strictly speaking recommend that. Okay, so that actually gets us a fair amount of damage right away there. What are we going to do with that? It feels like that's where they want me to start. But admittedly, I don't quite see what it does. I will go ahead and think about this circle, and I want to make a big warning about some of the arrows in this puzzle, like this arrow here. You might internalize what I said before as, every arrow that's length 3 sums to at least 6. It's not actually true if you have an arrow that looks like this, where I could do something like 1, 2, 1. This could actually sum to as little as 4. I mean, ignoring the fact that there's a 4 in the box. So you have to be very careful if your arrow is allowed by Sudoku to have repeated digits. It might be able to be very, very small. This one can't be very, very small at the very least, because these 2 digits can't be 1. So those are at least 2 plus 3. So that's 5, and this is certainly at least 1, just because there aren't zeros in at least regular Sudoku. So that means this is at least a 6. But it is not a 6, a 7, or a 9, and it's at least a 6, so therefore it's an 8. That's very cute, actually. And now this number, if you look at it, it is now at least 6, because notice these 3 are all in the same box. So this is at least 6, but it's not 6, 8, or 9, so it's only 7. And one of those Sudoku facts that you learn through constant use, because it comes up both in arrow puzzles and killer puzzles all the time, is that if I want 3 different digits to add to 7, then they need to be 1, 2, and 4. There's no other choice for what the digits could possibly be. So those are always going to be 1, 2, 4. Okay. I can at least mark this cell a little. I'm debating if I really want to do that with my life. I might want to do that with my life. So let me tell you how I can mark this up. Because I said these 2 are at a minimum 2, 3. And therefore they sum to at least 5. So therefore this number needs to be at most 3. So I can at least say, that's certainly a 1, 2, or 3. I don't know that that's going to be all that useful. Might be. I would love it if I knew this number wasn't a 1, but I don't think I do right away. Because it would at least get me some sort of crisscrossing marks. Let's see. Can I do better with any of these without trying to batch them together? So one thing you'll often see in arrow puzzles is that you could think about, like, what is the sum of all of these numbers together at a minimum? And then that's going to be the same thing as the sum of these numbers all together. I'm debating if I think that would appear in one of these puzzles or not. Well, it's worth doing anyway. Even if it's not necessary, this is a trick you'll see a lot. So let's do it. So what's the minimum sum of these cells? It would be if they were 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, which if you do enough Sudoku, especially if you do enough 6x6 Sudoku, you will come to learn is 21. So the minimum sum of these digits is 21, and I've seen the much easier thing all of a sudden. But never mind that. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do this anyway, and then I'm going to show you the easy thing that I should have seen. So those are a minimum of 21, and then these cells, if you look at it, are a minimum of 211, so that's 25, I guess. And so what that's saying is the sum of these 3 circles, you can guarantee is a minimum of 25. And so if you say, like, that one is at most a 9 plus 8 is 17, that is actually enough to tell you, I think that this has to be a 9 and that has to be a 9. But never mind any of that, because I'm going to show you something completely different that I think will probably get us to the same place anyway. Namely, where does 9 go in box 5? Well, one of the things about 9 is that it's very difficult to put 9 along the length of an arrow. Some people would say the shaft of an arrow, but I'm very careful not to say that. And so, well, if I can't put it along this part of the arrow, because then it'll add to too big of a number, and I can't put it there by Sudoku, actually the 9 is placed here, which then just by math means that's a 6. It's also pretty hard to put 8 along one of these. In fact, by pretty hard, I mean it's actually impossible. I'm certainly not putting an 8 along an arrow that sums to 8. But I can't put it along this arrow either, because if I put an 8 on here, the minimum sum would be 8 plus 1 plus 1, which is already 10. And the same goes for this one. So in fact, the 8 goes there. And now I have to inquire about where the 7 goes. And so they have conveniently given us this given 7 to tell us the 7 doesn't go in any of these cells. The 7 doesn't go here either, because you can't put a 7 on an 8 arrow. Because as soon as 7 is on a length 3 arrow, it has to be 7 plus 1 plus 1. And so the 7 we know is down here. And in fact, the 7 goes with a 1 and a 1 there. And actually, the 1 here tells us that actually it looks like that. And those numbers, by the way, add to 9. And so there is that. And now I can bounce my 9s through this box to see that that digit's also a 9. Just by Sudoku. And so now this number is not a 1, which for some reason I wanted before. Oh, I remember. I wanted to just corner mark 1 in one of these 2 cells, but somehow now I'm not as excited about that as I was before. One can never say what excites Zeta anymore. We can probably continue playing this game because one of these now is at a minimum 5-2. And that's because 1 is gone, but there is a 5 in the box. I can't put 5-2 on this one. That's already too big. So I have to put the 5 over here. If I do make that 5-2, then now I make this at least 3-4, and that doesn't work. here's a different way to say that same thing. I know that this number is at least 2, so these two need to sum to at most 6. And therefore, they need to contain a 2, because if you don't contain a number that is 2 or less, then two digits are going to sum to at least 3 plus 4, which is 7, which is too big. So there is a 2 in here, in fact, and in fact, we can place the 2. I always like it when I'm using the given digits, because it usually means I'm doing what the setter intended. And so now those are a 1 and a 4, so therefore that's a 2. That is not a 2. Okay, and so now the minimum that these can possibly be is 3, 5. Well, that's the only thing they can be, because 3, 5 here with a 1 here is already 9. Places the 1 there. And so that actually recovers the thing we did in the really complicated over-the-top way to notice that these two digits had to be 9. Also, I can write in that this is a 4, and that's a 2, like that. Okay, so we've got all of that happening. Okay, this number is kind of interesting, actually, because it's on a big arrow, but it actually sees 1, 2, 3, and 4 by Sudoku. So this number is at least 5. But it can't be larger than 6, owing to the fact that these two cells sum to a bare minimum of 3, right? 1 and 2 is the minimum that these two could be. Also, actually, if you consider it, now that this is at least 5, these two need to sum to at most 4, which means they need to be from 1, 2, 3 only. The way I look at cells pencil marked like this is that there's two universes. Either this cell is a 1, or these are a 2, 3 pair. And that's because they overlap in 2 and 3. And so if this cell's a 2 or a 3, this is the other of 2 and 3. Well, these definitely aren't a 2, 3 pair. And the way I know that these for sure are not a 2, 3 pair is that then they would sum to 5 plus a minimum of 5, and that would be 10. So in fact, that has to be the 1. Okay, now the minimum of this is 8. So this digit's certainly an 8 or a 9. Let's have a look at this arrow. This arrow is length 3. And so it's going to sum to a minimum of 1, 2, 3. But wait, it's not a minimum of 1, 2, 3 because there's a 2 in the box. So actually the minimum here is 1, 3, 4, which is already 8. So this is summing to 8 or 9. Well, it's not summing to 9, so therefore it's summing to 8, owing to the given digit. So that's an 8 and that's a 9. Now, there's all sorts of weird facts that you can internalize about arrows, like that every length 3 arrow has a 1 on it, except for exactly this one. And by length 3 arrow, I mean length 3 arrow where the 3 cells are all in the same box. But you can also just imagine, what if there wasn't a 1 on this arrow? Well, then suddenly it would be a minimum of 3, 4, 5. That's 12, which is well more than 8. So we need a 1. And in fact, there's only one place for the 1 to go, which is there. So it is worth sort of marking that. And in fact, actually, we've got 8 1s in the grid now. We might as well go ahead and throw a 1 down there. And I think that's now all the 1s in the grid, provided that my count of 8 previously was correct. Okay, and now I know that this is a 9 sum. These two are needing to sum to 8, so they're either 2, 6, or 3, 5, and they sure are. Okay, so what else can we do with this now? Let's see. We do see that 3 is a little bit restricted. Oh, this is what I should do. What are these two digits? Well, they're minimum 3, 4, but those already sum to 7, which is what they need to. So these are a 3, 4. In general, if you do enough of these, again, you'll internalize that the only length 3 arrows that add to 8 are 1, 2, 5 and 1, 3, 4. And this can't be 1, 2, 5 because there's a 2 there. But you don't at all have to memorize those things to get started out in these sorts of puzzles. And you can just sort of work it out in your head. And if you work it out a few times, then it'll click. Okay, I see now that that 3 looks crisscross across at box 6, placing a 3 there. Let's see. I see now that these digits contain a 5, a 6, and an 8. Okay, well, that's the 8. These are a 5, 6 pair. I don't think that's resolved yet. But we can look across this row now and see that the digit that's missing is a 7. So that digit is a 7. This is a pair, just missing in the row. We've got the 1, 2, 3, 4. We need a 5 and an 8. I don't think I know what order that goes in yet. And these are also a pair, 3, 4, 5, of 6 and 9. And that I do know the order of because I know where the 9 has to go. Okay, so that is good starting. Okay. So what am I looking for now? I could randomly pencil mark this column, and maybe I'll get lucky and it'll do something. I don't know if I'm at that level of desperation yet. How am I doing on 9s, by the way? I have all the 9s. No, I don't have all the 9s. I'm missing one 9, and that 9 goes there. Okay. So now I'm going to fill in this column, because now that definitely seems like a positive. So there's a 5 and a 6 missing, and the other one is an 8. Okay, so in fact, those are a 5, 6 pair, and that's an 8. By the way, the reason why these 3 cells were far more appealing to fill in than those 3 cells, if you looked at that and thought, but wait, Zeta, you just said you didn't care to fill in 3 random cells and hope, is that these 3 are in a box together. And so by virtue of being in a box together, particularly with this arrow, it meant there's more restriction and I get more out of filling them in. Like this 5, 6 pair over here that I thought was going to sort out what this arrow was, but alas, we are not quite so lucky yet. But these 8s look over and they give us this 8 over here. Let's see, what are the digits left in this box? We've got a 3, 4, and 5 are what is left. Well, that seemed like it was worth filling in because that is a 5, a 3, and a 4. Which gives us the 6 and the 5 over here. And now this is a naked single, meaning it only has one value. And that value is, drumroll please, 7. I got it right. Very excited. I'm trying to get better at seeing this, but I'm not very good. One of these is a 3, and it's that one. And that is actually very useful for a reason that Sven is telling us. But let me finish filling in what this is before I go over there and do that. This seems to be a 6. Okay, so that gives me the 5, the 6, and the 2 over there, which gives me the 4 and the 2 up there. One of these is a 2, and it's that one, and that's a 5. Okay, and so now we are in good mode. So these are a 7 and a 6, sorted out by that. Let's see. These are a 2, a 4, and a 5. Okay, and that one at least I know is a 4, which then gives me the 5 and the 2. Never mind all the glaring red stuff happening. These are a 3, a 4, and a 7. That seems to be the 7. That's the 3, and that's the 4, which gives me the 5 and the 3 over there. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we need 6 and 7 in these cells. We need an 8 and a 5 in these cells. These need to be a 4 and the other one, and a 7. This is by the row, a 6. By the column, this is a 2, 8, and 3. Very nice. Alrighty, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I do really enjoy arrows. Let me know if you learned any tricks and tips that you can carry forward into your puzzling with arrows. They are one of the most common constraints you'll see, and actually I think for my taste at least they're one of the best constraints to have with a puzzle that is just arrows, or just arrows and given digits, as this one was. Alright, well, do again leave a comment. kind word, thumbs up, all the good YouTube stuff. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll be back soon with more Invitation to Puzzles. See you then. Bye for now.